рады всех приветствовать.
So, dear colleagues, we are glad to start our work today, and thank you so much for such a possibility to organize a roundtable today. So, I represent the International Center for Education. Center realizes Russian part of the Russian Education Aid Development Program. So, considering the program, one of the development of our work for the last year and for the current year, it is the elaboration of the tool of the competences of 21st century and the work in the post-COVID life. So actually, we have all faced such an issue, and our hypothesis is that children and students who have the competences for the 21st century managed to overcome these difficulties that are connected with the crisis easier than we could. For the second year, we have been working on the further development of the tool. We have started our work last year, and now we would like to tell about such a tool in more detail and to ask our colleagues to have a small test, to pass a small test, well, not right now, but still have a clinic approbation of the tool so that we would be able to have a further development of the process and to ameliorate our tool. So I'm passing the floor to Natalia, expert for the foundation, head developer of the tool of the assessment of the competencies of the 21st century. Natalia, the floor is yours, so please download the presentation. So yes, good afternoon. Now I will try to have a screen share. Well, I can see it.
Прикольно. Артем, хорошо видно или...
So can you see the presentation well or not?
Все нормально, видно хорошо.
Так, просто мне вас слышно видно. Ладно.
Okay.
Я расскажу вам про наши инструменты, которые мы разработали для проведения исследования оценки навыков 21 века.
So now we are working on the elaboration of the crisis of the 21st century and of overcoming the crisis provoked by the COVID pandemics.
Сейчас, секунду, у меня просто лишний... Мы все понимаем, что будущее образование
We
заключается...
understand that the future of the education means that we have to work on our competence all lifelong, and now we see that the competences of the 21st century will allow us to achieve success in current times. And universal competences and skills that we are trying to develop should not replace but reinforce the subject knowledge that we achieve at school. And at school in new conditions, and considering the experience of the COVID-19, it is necessary to develop further universal competence and new literacy and subject knowledge. So the goal and the target of our research, that is to incorporate new tools of the competence of the 21st century, and also to have the assessment of the further development of these tools, and to see the transformation of the educational progress. So we see that we have done it with pleasure in various countries, with various economy types. during the COVID pandemic. So first of all, our idea is to assess the level of interest of our pupils towards the lessons, toward these communicative skills, and to see their critical thinking level, and have the assessment of the teacher's realization of collaboration in educational process. We are assessing, while considering the competence, we are talking about the 4 key competences, that is critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. Critical thinking, that is the possibility to think rationally and to see the logical connection between various concepts and ideas. That also gives them the possibility to see the new point of view for studying new subjects and disciplines, and it also allows to see the educational level to the critical thinking and efficient solution problem in the class of the processing of any idea. By the creativity, we see the possibility to think creatively, to have the insights and discoveries. That is the possibility to have the absolutely new ideas and approaches to provide with new responses, and of course to synthesize and change knowledge. Considering communication, these are the skills of the qualified oral and written communication, possibility to speak up in public and to listen attentively. And that is the practice of the passage of ideas. That is also the collaboration. That is the activity in several parties, thanks to which all participants get a certain success. And of course, that provides us with the leader qualities and the possibility to work in the team. That is the possibility to get oriented in various environments and situations in life. And that is also the practice of the collaboration of the teamwork that would allow pupils to understand how to find a solution to a problem, how to provide them with solutions, and how to make right decisions. So if we are talking about the 4K necessity, we would say that there are several needs for that. First of all, critical thinking teaches us to think critically and to find the truth. And of course, it teaches us to think in a unique way. And the common work teaches that groups might create something which is better than something you can do just alone. And communication also teaches children how to effectively pass their ideas, which actually allows students to become a unified center of activity. We have also created the tools for the research. These are 4C questionnaires. So that is the first questionnaire for a pupil, then for the teacher, considering the collaboration in educational process. And we would also like to use our SAM, Student Achievement Monitoring, that is the tool for assessing maths results, and to see how the 4C programs are working and which is the level of competences. The pupils questionnaire, the students questionnaire, that is a questionnaire actually on the level of the 4C considering certain subject, and then that is a test for the further critical thinking assessment. So the 4C questionnaire considering the subject studied, that is dedicated to the interest of the knowledge which is necessary, and that is based on the interest of the students towards the communication and collaboration. That is the level of the interest and how it is seen, so that is the creativity. We also see that that is the level of critical thinking, and of course that is the competence of the collaboration. So then that is the level of interest towards the creativity, and which is based on the critical thinking. So what we see is that that is a solution finding approach. So we see that we have 4 questions for each board, and we have the Likert 5-step level scale, and usually it takes about 20 minutes to pass this questionnaire, to fill it in. So here are the questions considering the interests of the 4C, and what we see here is that, like, do I like to present my responses to my peers? Then these are the questions on interest of the pupils towards the creativity at the lesson. So that is common job, like I like to discuss the results of our collaborative work, and I like to and the other block of questions is like your interest on the creative and critical thinking. And so I have just showed some of the examples here. So the second tool is also for a student, that is on critical thinking. That is just a test, and it comprises 7 texts, which are actually seen and they are based on the materials that you have read. So that is on the precision and on the based on the information that was explained there. So that is the possibility to find the reasons and the results of a certain activity. And considering the text, we see that there are 30 questions and their quality vary. That depends on the volume of the text and how much information is there in it. So minimum is 3 questions, maximum is 5. And what we see here that the approbation time was 40 minutes, and all that is needed that the student will simply choose the correct question. So they choose just one answer which is correct in their own opinion. So I will show it. So here we see the text like Misha and Sasha had been students of the same class, and the teacher gave them the results of their test. And Misha smiled and Sasha was unhappy. So we think that now we hope that they will study harder. So that is the example that is shown to the pupils. And here we have just 2 questions. And based on this very story, which answer is the more possibly true? So we had just 5 answers to the questions. So Misha had the better grade on the test than Sasha did. Usually Misha gets better marks than Sasha, or Sasha will have the better result. Result number 4, Sasha didn't manage to work on the test as well as he wanted to. So considering it, what we see is that a student should see whether one of the answers is correct or not, considering this particular test. So Sasha didn't do the test as well as he could. And considering the text, we see that Sasha was unhappy, even though when he had seen his results, we can say, come to a conclusion that he wasn't as good as he wanted to be. So we consider that number 3 is good. So he thought that he would pass the test better. But we know that he is unhappy about his grade, but we don't know whether he had been expecting a better grade and better mark. So even if he had been expecting for it so that he would pass exam not really good enough, he would have been unhappy. And what we see here is the possibility to think, your creativity, and based on the info that is being shown at these very texts. So this is text number 2, based on it. So what does the teacher believe in? That studies help children to pass the test in math really well. So the second question, like, we haven't been preparing for the test. Number 3, neither of the students managed to prepare for the test. Number 4, students can't do their studies well without maths. Well, actually, studying helps students to pass tests in math really good. And so we see that the teacher hoped that they would study better and that they would get prepared better. So I suppose, considering that, we might consider that the teacher thinks that studies help students to pass the tests really well. So that is the right answer. So considering it, I would say that considering the test, we have 7 questions like that, and we have kind of 30 questions on it, considering this very thing. And we have questions that go after each text. So the tests are the same. So now I will speak about the questionnaire of the teacher. So the questionnaire is dedicated to see the realization of collaboration in educational process. So we will understand that teachers use various strategies for education, and the goal for this questionnaire is to learn more on the reasons which teachers prefer to realize or incorporate just one strategy, which is collaboration. So the knowledge achieved may allow us to elaborate more efficient methods for studying in class and that have allowed to get the new qualifications, competencies, and skills in practices applied. So what is this questionnaire on collaboration in studies? So that is the questionnaire that has 35 questions. That is the scale that comprises 5 levels. And I suppose that we still have the approbation time, which lasted for 20 minutes. And that could have been assumptions like that. Collaboration with peers helps students to have a deeper understanding of the material. That is to say that too many students in the group consider that others would make the job. I don't have enough experience to have this collaboration in education, and in my class there are too many pupils so that we could collaborate efficiently.
Потому что эта практика нацелена на определенное количество
This practice
большие
is
классы мы не можем.
dedicated to a certain number of pupils in the group. Large classes cannot be subject of this practice. So we tried these skills and protocols. So we asked for feedback. We asked our pupils and teachers about their impressions. And after collecting feedback, we corrected a little bit our questionnaire and added some more questions. That was the first step. And at the second step of test, the questionnaire was filled in by 90 pupils and 34 teachers. What results did we get? We could draw conclusions about educational environment. We found out what was important in the teaching and learning process for teachers and for pupils. Skills of the 21st century are very important, the ones which influence positively the teaching and learning process, and we need to develop these skills. On the other hand, there are skills which are detrimental for the teaching and learning process, and we need to correct these skills. Every questionnaire has its own particularities because we adjust every questionnaire for a particular class. What we suggest that you do? We have a plan of our research for the deadline is August this year, and in September we will collect the data. We will analyze the data in October, and in November, we will prepare the reports featuring this data, and we invite you to try to implement the questionnaires that we propose if you wish. Are there any questions? Thank you, Natalia Vladimirovna, for this presentation. Dear colleagues, do you have questions on this report? If you do, please write them in the chat, or you can ask them directly in Zoom. My question is, what is the target audience? Answer. Pupils of the 4th or 5th year of secondary school. These were the children that we invited to participate. What about teachers? Or teachers maybe of elementary school or secondary school, no
Можно,
matter.
Артем, да?
Да, Василий, конечно, конечно.
Коллеги.
Question.
Наталья, а скажите,
Natalia, please tell me.
предметные привязки, это понятно.
So it doesn't matter which subject is concerned. Well, but
Вот этот инструмент.
is the age is concerned. So is this tool applicable to any age? I mean, age of pupils, younger pupils or older students, or do we need to adopt this tool according to the age? Answer. Well, as I said, it's the 4th and 5th year of studies in the secondary school. So it's like 10 to 11 years of age. Thank you. I have another question to ask. Thank you, dear colleagues. And I have a question to ask as follows.
Я предлагаю, ну, если у нас есть время,
If we have time, I would like to ask for an explanation. A questionnaire for pupils. So is it an offline questionnaire, or may it be an online questionnaire as a Google form? Answer. It should be a paper-based questionnaire in their notebook. Why? Because a test for critical thinking implies written instructions. And when we carried out our tests, we gave instructions to the teacher. And I was one of the teachers who carried out the test for teachers. And then the teachers explained to the pupils how to use this tool, the questionnaire. Thank you. And you said that
40 минут.
it should be 7 texts, 40 questions, 40 minutes. So it looks like a very intensive questionnaire. You mentioned 7 texts and questions for each of them. So the questions should be very short, just one line. or
Нет, вопрос
may they be longer questions? Because the pupil will need to reread the text
Вернуться
again.
вот на этот.
Answer. Well, the questions are short, just one line, and the explanation that you read was given there to explain to you the reasoning. So coming back to the slide, I'll tell you, that's one line of the question. That's the second question, 3 and 4. So 4 questions, 4 lines. And what is written, this is an incorrect answer. Will there be this line? Answer, no. This line is just
Будет
here
просто.
for explanation. You will not have this line written in the notebook. Clear? Thank you. The question has multiple options, and the pupil takes the right option. Question. You see, when you had your text written on one slide and the questions on the other slide, I had hard time to figure out who was Misha, who was Sasha. I just had to reread the text. So I suggest you take it into consideration. So the text and the questions should be visible on one page. It would be easier. Another question concerns COVID-19 and its impact on education and learning results. How are you going to organize feedback from teachers or the feedback from pupils, how they overcame this pandemic, just to see how well their 4K skills are developed? And these are the results after the pandemic. How can we assess whether these skills are enhanced or not? What's your idea? Answer. Well, the process is ongoing. We cannot tell you whether the skills have improved or deteriorated. So it's an ongoing process. After the pandemic, we assume that children have developed these skills because this experience have taught them something. After that, I suppose we will see some indirect indicators of the skills improvement. Now we're just assuming, we're just supposing that their skills might be improved due to the pandemic, the skills of the pupils and the skills of the teachers, because we all had to adapt. Question. Coming back to the title of your report, I will see that there's a connection between the research and
И в этом смысле, может быть, в качестве
the
предложения
response to COVID-19 education process. So probably we will need to try to find feedback from pupils and teachers in September. Probably in September, the teachers will be able to give feedback according to them.
Я не знаю, насколько это корректно будет с точки зрения
For
сопоставимости
each pupil, whether each of them improve their skills or not. These will represent results, and now we have just a supposition. Answer. Yeah, you're right. This is a good idea. And I suppose that this feedback collection is the right thing to do in September. New skills and new knowledge is actually used in the education process. I suppose so. Question? Thank you very much. Question? Your methods, how reliable are they? Answer. After the first step of tests, we think that we have a very limited sample, but we think that reliability is rather high.
Добрый день.
Olga Zelenko,
Слышно меня?
I give you the floor.
Да.
Can you hear me?
Вопрос следующий.
My question
Я
is,
правильно поняла, в исследовании
if I
от страны
understood correctly,
предполагается
so
60
your
учащихся, 30
research implies
предполагается,
30
что это будут
and something
те
pupils
учителя,
and
которые
50
работают с
teachers,
этими
or vice versa. The teachers that you're going to invite. So we need to have 60 pupils and 30 teachers. So what kind of teachers? Answer. Any subject teacher. So it doesn't matter what subject the teacher is teaching, and the pupils may be of different
Так,
ages.
Наташа, еще такой технический тоже вопрос из чата. Будет ли доступна презентация?
Question. The presentation, is it going to be available for the listeners? Answer. So
Ну,
it's up to
с нашей
you.
стороны, конечно, да.
Question. Yes, we can do the presentation available.
Презентация
If you
онлайн, но она
need,
будет распространяться и в
if you
материалах
need it,
по итогам
we
симпозиума,
will
скорее
share
всего.
it
И
after
по
the
запросу,
symposium,
безусловно,
or you can ask
презентацию
precisely
отправим,
for
отдадим
that
тем, кто
particular
заинтересовался
presentation. You just
исследованием.
send your request and we will answer.
Артем, да, пожалуйста.
В
Artyom,
продолжение
I give you the floor back.
вопроса относительно
Question.
учителей и учеников. То есть предполагается, что
Question about pupils and teachers.
исследования,
So
но
it's a piece of research.
по сути это два исследования. Есть
However,
учителя и
I
ученики
think these
связаны,
are
и мы
two
говорим,
pieces
что
of research, one for teachers, one
коллаборацию
for
учителей мы
pupils.
тестируем отдельно от учеников.
Teachers'
Что
collaboration is
тогда речь
tested
идет
separately
о
from
двух,
pupils.
получается,
So I
исследованиях,
suppose these are
где мы
two
результаты
pieces of
не сравниваем.
research and their results are not compared. Am I right? Answer. Yes, you're right. We are testing the instrument, the tool itself and its work and its efficiency. If we take 30 pupils, we will have only 2 teachers and this sample will not be representative.
Учителей на коллаборацию каким-то образом связано с результатами эпидемии? Там есть вопросы?
And do you have questions concerning the pandemic or don't you? Answer. We have a question on online collaboration. We have an online technology in teaching studying process, and we have also a question about technologies used in class. So we have a question on technologies online and offline in class. Question. In the questionnaire on collaboration
Мнение учителя о
may
том,
include the opinion of a teacher,
пандемия, вот этот период, то можно, наверное, сделать какие-то косвенные выводы, что владение
about his or her opinion about the pandemic process in the
современными средствами
pandemic period in the teaching learning process, and ask for the opinion of a teacher whether this tool made it easier to overcome pandemic or not. I mean the pandemic period. Was this tool useful? Did it give us an opportunity to confirm or deny our hypothesis? Answer. Yes, you're right. In the beginning of our research, we wanted to organize an interview with teachers and to find out how the teaching process changed after the pandemic. These could be questions within the interview, outside the questionnaire. This interview will allow us to dig deeper in and to find out even more feedback from teachers about their difficulties during the pandemic time. Question? Thank you. Answer?
Уважаемые
Thank
коллеги,
you.
пожалуйста, вопросы,
Dear
комментарии,
colleagues, do
замечания.
you have questions or
Вопросы
comments?
очень ценны, что мы
Any
находим обратную связь. И
anything to
для нас это
add
очень ценно
to
и важно.
that?
Поэтому,
Please
пожалуйста,
write in the
задавайте
chat
вопросы.
or turn on your mic to speak. Do not hesitate.
Артем, это Ольга Зеленко.
Да.
Artyom,
Ну
it's
вот меня
Olga,
как раз и смущает
Olga
то,
Zelenko. Can I ask a
что
question?
в моем
Answer?
вопросе
Yes, go ahead.
увидел
Question.
другой Артем. То, что детей мы
Here,
изучаем на предмет
the children
способности
are
навыка критического мышления, навык
study,
21
the
века. Детей мы
subject that we
спрашиваем о
study with children is
том, как они
whether the
работают над
skill of the
навыками
21st century
коллаборации, да?
is achieved or not.
У нас в стране
For
обычно
example,
в
working
нашего
in
республиканского
collaboration.
мониторинга
In
это
our
опрос
Republican
предполагает
monitoring,
один
these
предмет
questions
исследования, и мы устанавливаем
imply
связь между
only
результатами,
one
которые продемонстрировали
topic.
учащиеся,
So we
и
try
тем,
to find the
что по этому
results
поводу нам
that
дали
the
учителя.
pupils
То
demonstrated,
есть здесь
and we
я
compare
сразу
them
вижу, как
with what
подчеркнул Артем,
teachers
два совершенно
wanted
не связанных между
to
собой
teach.
направления. Как предполагается
And
потом делать
here
выводы по
I see a
результатам этого исследования?
contradiction. How are you going to draw conclusions from your study?
Смотрите, то есть,
Answer.
Ольга, спасибо за вопрос. Я сейчас тогда
Thank you for your question, Olga. I'm going to reiterate my idea.
мы измеряем
We
уровень развитости, да, навыков
measure
21 века
the level of
привязки с
skills
образовательным
development,
к образовательным
and it is connected
А у
to
учителей получается, что мы
learning
оцениваем уровень реализации
performance.
коллаборации в образовательном процессе.
And
Да, возможно, это два
you mean the assessment of the level of collaboration in the teaching and learning process. These are two different things.
А можно вопрос? Коллаборацию мы учеников не
Question.
определяем, мы только
Collaboration of
учителей, правильно?
pupils is not
коллаборация.
assessed. Here we assess only critical thinking. Answer.
Да, первый
We
инструмент
do
это
assess
опросники
collaboration.
на
First tool is the questionnaire to
интерес
find out
у ученика.
about the
Первый
interest
инструмент
towards 4K skills.
на критическое мышление, то есть это более
And the
глубокое изучение этого
texts
конструкта,
with
чтобы
questions
понимать
is a
его
tool to
важность,
assess the
применение
critical thinking,
для него
because we think that
особенно.
critical thinking is a very important skill. That's why
Ну,
we
тогда, значит,
elaborated
у нас связь
this test
и с
to test
результатами
critical
пандемии
thinking
не
separately.
терялась. Наверняка имеет
Question.
смысл сказать,
So
что есть два разных
probably
исследования.
we need
Давайте
to say that we have
вот
two
это
different pieces
учителей,
of
мы
research.
хотим
We want
что-то
to
узнать
find
об
out something
учениках.
about teachers,
Но
something to find out about
туда
pupils,
добавить в любом
and
формате
in
просто
both
контекст
pieces of
того,
research,
тот или иной
we need
ученик
to
прошел
add
этап пандемии. Хотя в некоторых
how
странах
both teachers
это
and
нам уже
pupils
подчеркнули
overcame
коллеги,
the
делают даже
pandemic
не
in their
просто
teaching
ставку
learning process.
пандемии или там переход в режим оффлайн.
So
Ну вот
there is also the
так или
passage to
иначе,
the online and
хотелось
offline
бы
regimes.
вот
And what
увидеть
we would like
такую
to
обратную
see
связь
is
и в
the
том, и в другом исследовании,
feedback
на
in
мой взгляд.
both researches. So that's what I consider to be important.
Василий, пожалуйста, ваш вопрос.
So Vasily, your question, please.
Я не совсем четко представляю
So I
себе,
don't really see
как
the
можно
whole idea of
реализовать
how can we
это
realize
исследование с
this,
точки зрения сопоставления
considering
результатов,
the
которые были
correlation of the
до
results
пандемии,
that have been before
и
pandemics
нынешних результатов.
and current
Однозначно
results.
понятно, что у нас нет
So what we see is that we don't see any real assessments that we have been doing considering the 1st January of 2020. So what are we going to compare it with? Are we going to make some comparisons? So what are the results of life during the pandemics on the educational process?
Наверное, вопрос к Наталье.
Спасибо.
So I suppose that the question goes to Natalia. So Natalia, please.
Ну, так. Мы не замеряем ничего.
So what we do not measure, we don't measure anything for the pupils before the pandemics, of course. We can just assume something,
Предположение должно быть на что-то
but the
основано.
assume should be based on something. So like,
Который видел этого ученика.
you have seen a certain student, and if you are doing that during the passage from the main classes in the school, from the primary school. So we see two teachers there, and we see that there is an opinion of the current teacher, considering on what that had been a student. Or to add some questions to the student, like how did he spend COVID time, if it would be correct at school, if it would be polite enough. So considering this target group, if we are using it, or we are using it as the 3rd or 5th grade, what we should see here, something must be done. So actually what I see is that our target group would be like, that's the results that we have achieved, that it should be connected with actually the previous grades that the child had. So that is just the results that are the results for the January 1st, 2020 and 2023. So this takes 3 years. And so that is what he or she had during the 3rd grade and in the middle of the 25th. So actually these are some age groups that each connected things that influence his behavior. Like we say that that is COVID due, but that can be the issue problem, the age problem. So you have started studying words because of that. So I suppose that correction of the journal should be, of course, taken into consideration. And I don't know how to explain that better. We should think about it better, I guess. So, Artem, thank you. So please give us an answer. There is one. So I suppose that if we have asked the most important questions, I guess we should think how we should pass our summer if we are planning a research. So if there is anyone who would like to join us, we have a whole summer to consider it, to work on a research and launch it in September. So Natalia, what would you consider to be correct so that we will have the terms that are good ones for us? So I suppose that we should be adapting, and we should see that the names and the terms might be very different for various types of pupils. It is quite possible that we will really have to work on something. And of course, there are different tools for different countries participating in it. And of course, we should have a pilot research with the pupils or the students. And I think that the understanding might be very different. And so that is what can be done on the 1st September. Well, I suppose that in summer the pilot with students is quite a problem. So maybe we should see the scale getting lower to September, so that we'll have the possibility, like, to see that we had as much students in the first grade as much in the second, so we should analyze our understanding and we should make something precise, more precise. So as far as I understand it, that is to see how the idea works itself. So what does it give to the group we are working with? If it responds to our expectations, and to propose them what they need. So the more we speak, the more time passes, the more this prefix, considering epidemics, is becoming less important. So that is just the tool for the 21st century. Like now, we are studying a certain construct, subconstruct. So like how did we go through a complicated issue? Like today that is academics, and tomorrow that is the absence in school, and for someone a 5-week absence is a problem, and for someone it's just fine. So we see that situations might be different for pupils, and the reaction should be like that he or she should stay in the framework of the study so that you will not lose the track on which the class goes. So that is the 4C competence format, which is of vital importance for the students. And like that, we see that if we will have something in September in a small group, we will definitely get a feedback and a tool that we will achieve, and the results of the mutual collaboration and feedback that could be scaled to a big audience.
Ну, тогда тоже можно провести в 2 этапа. То есть первый этап это такой.
So we can have several stages. So the first approbation, the pilot, like on 6 students, how do they consider what is their evaluation of the protocols? And of course, at the end of September, we might get that on a large scale group in autumn. So we will have the first approbation and the first protocol with good results. Yeah, exactly. I think that's sensible. That makes sense. So, colleagues, are there any other questions or comments? Please.
Коллеги, ну, раз
So,
вопрос...
colleagues, as far as we don't have any real questions, I'd say that we have been out of our agenda. We have a possibility to have a little rest. So thanks to everyone for participation in our roundtable. Thanks for questions. Thanks for the feedback that we received. We, from our part, are inviting everyone to join our experiment, the use of this new tool, and we hope that it would be interesting and we would cooperate in this particular direction. And once again, thanks to everyone and for your participation, considering that is the experiment in various different topics in various countries comprises more efficiency and more value as far as we see how different things influence the results in pandemics, where the results have been bigger and more numerous. I don't know really, but there can be really country-related differences.